Good morning, afternoon, evening, as the case may be, in your part of the world. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Zen Archer. I tell you, it's hard to find a place to vlog out here this morning. It just seems like no matter where I go, it just doesn't work out. Go in the back, and there's cicadas and music playing next door, and then there's mosquitoes up the wazoo. So I thought maybe we'd just take a little walk out here. You can hear a cicada in the trees. It's that season again. One of my favorite bloggers here on YouTube, I found because of Atara 916. Many of you remember her. Her and I were out for a walk, and we saw a huge wasp, as big as my thumb, attacking a cicada. And we decided to look on YouTube and see if we could figure out what that was all about. And this guy does, his videos are documentary, in a documentary style, and he was explaining about cicada killer wasps. And I'll put a link if I can remember where the video's at so you guys can see it too. But it's a wasp that specifically attacks cicada, takes the cicada and flies it to its nest, a burrow in the ground, and puts it in there and then lays its eggs on it. Then those eggs, when they hatch, use that cicada as food while they develop. Anyway, it's a random thought. That's not really what I talked to you about today. I just watched, you remember I told you about the Jerry Seinfeld show, the comedians in cars with coffee? Well, he just had Chris Rock on, and during that show, he was mentioning that if you gave a caveman a lighter, if you gave him technology, that caveman would rule the world. So then that led to more of that type of conversation, and I got to thinking about access to technology, and those people who have it and those people who don't. And in the process of investigating that, I found some interesting things that I wanted to share with you. One of those interesting things is a woman by the name of Susan Crawford, who wrote a book called Captive Audience. Now, Susan Crawford is a woman who was, during the Obama's transition into presidency, she was a special advisor on technology, innovation, internet. She's worked with the FCC, so on and so forth. And she wrote this book, and it really started to make me think about the technology that we have today. Everybody's walking around with smartphones. I happen to know that something like 35% of the people that are watching this video are watching it on a mobile device, which is one of the reasons that now I try to keep the videos a little bit shorter than I used to, because people on mobile devices don't have 20 minutes to sit in a McDonald's and watch my videos. They want to see a lot of other videos or eating. At any rate, so her contention is, and I agree with it, is that the internet today is not a luxury item anymore. At one time it might have been, but today it's not. It's as important as the electricity in your house. It's as important as the communication that you used to get through your cell phone. It's as important as your running water and your flushing toilets. The internet is that important to people in the United States. And not only is it important just because they have information at their fingertips, which gives them a step up, but it's important because you can't function in any kind of a reasonable way in society today if you're not using the internet in some way. If you want to put in a job application, you need the internet to do that in most cases. If an employer is going to hire you, he's going to look and find out about you through your internet presence. He's going to look at your Facebook and stuff like that. So you might want to be careful what you put up there. But it's become a utility item. And yet, back in the early 2000s even, there were laws that were being passed, and much farther back, Ma Bells and monopolies were broke up and forced to put copper wiring to more rural places that didn't have telephone, because at that time the telephone as a communication device was just as important as the radio is today. You needed to be able to communicate with people. So today those laws are still in place, and telephone companies that have that type of service are still required to do certain things, but they're with the advent of VoIP services, voice over IP, they're moving into the internet and using the net in order to make phone calls and stuff like that. Think Skype. And so they're dropping some of their most of their copper wire service, and in doing so they're putting a significant number of Americans at a disadvantage, because while the copper wires were regulated and there had to be competition, that's why they broke up the Ma Bells and stuff to get rid of the monopolies, there had to be competition in order to drive prices lower. While that was true with telephone companies, that's not true on the internet. The internet is full of monopolies, and companies like Time Warner and Verizon and AT&T have lobbyists, you know, in Washington that are fighting to make sure that it doesn't get regulated. So they're charging you high prices for what is really substandard internet services, to be honest with you. If you go to places, other countries, China for instance, in Seoul, you can get a 500 megabyte download, 500 megabyte per second download type of service for roughly what would be equivalent to $30 in the United States. So what you pay $200 or better for, and you're lucky if you... There are places in the United States where you download service. However, that's an interesting thing I'm going to come back to. So, fiber optics is in places like China and Japan, particularly. Upload, download speeds are unbelievable compared to us, because we're getting substandard service and paying top dollar for it. But there are places in the United States, for instance, Lafayette, Louisiana, who fought the cable companies, and actually the cable companies fought them, but in order to have the right to make internet access available for all of their residents at reasonable prices. And some of the Silicon Valley companies are moving to Lafayette specifically because of the internet service that's provided, 100 megabyte download speed and significantly higher upload speed. So that's what the book is about, and in the book, Captured Audience, in that book, she also points out Americans that have no internet service at all, and in order to do their schoolwork, have to go to a local library or McDonald's. Well, guys, here's some fun. My camera apparently can only do about 10 minutes, and then it shuts off when I'm recording, and I hadn't realized that. So I was working on the blog telling you about Susan Crawford's book, and it ended. So this is just kind of an ending. I'll put links in the below for you to find Susan's book at Amazon, both the Kindle version for, I think it's $14.99. The hardcover version is only about $22. If you're interested in that, or you might find it in your local library. It's been out for over a year, I believe. And I'll also put, if you can't afford the book but you're still interested in the subject, Susan Crawford's got a blog, and I'll put a description there, and she covers a lot of the same thing about the internet and internet inequality, the number of people who don't have access to the internet or have limited access to the internet, mostly because of financial reasons and because we view the internet as a luxury item instead of as the utility that it really has become. Thank you for watching. This is the Sunday vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll subscribe and like it, and you'll you'll share it with your friends so they find out about Susan's book, and think a little bit more about the inequality of the internet, not just as far as the people here inside the United States goes, but as far as cities being able to make internet services available to all residents, and as far as fiber optics going in, which is just it's just a mess, trying to get fiber optics in when the cable companies had promised years ago that that's what they were going to do. They're just not doing it, and there doesn't seem to be any oversight making them do it. So I'll leave the links in below. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, as always, this is Zen saying you be well, and I'll see you Wednesday.